So the idea is we start off with the goal. And do you know about the project itself?
No, you
Okay,
with me.
so I'll start off with GitHub then. So in my GitHub, we've got my repositories, the different things I've worked on in the past, mostly Java, as you can see. There's a bit of Rust here,
Yeah.
Kotlin there. At the top here, we've got a private, two private ones. This is one I'm working on now, but this is the one I want to show. So
Okay.
in this private repository, this is a one-man project, and it started off with curiosity
Hmm.
in regards to approaching various different types of trading strategies. And you can trade in different ways. So you're familiar with the stock market, things like that, and
Yeah.
trades?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
perfect. You know BitMEX?
No, I've never heard of BitMEX.
Okay, so BitMEX is a platform that allows you to trade cryptocurrency.
Okay.
You can use leveraging on BitMEX. So I don't know if I should log in with this one, but I won't. I won't risk it. But basically, if you believe the market is going to go up, you can leverage your trade up to 100x, maybe even more. But I go for a variation of different types of trades. If you
Okay.
want to scalp the market, you can go in for say 100x and you do a quick trade in and out and you're done.
Okay.
So I came across this trading strategy, very basic, but it seemed plausible. But it requires a lot of time in the day. So I figured instead of sitting at my screen all day, I can just get a trading bot to do this for me.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to focus on today. I have made a lot more than I'm going to show you, but I don't want to.
No, no, no. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good to
don't,
keep it focused.
I'll
Yeah.
keep it focused. So with that in mind, the checklist here is to start off with the goal of create or showing what my trading bot and what it can do.
Hmm.
I'm going to demonstrate with BitMEX a visual setup of the strategy that we're going to implement. The bot can also do. And I'll show you the different oscillators that I use. And it's good that you know trading because I've built these oscillators myself in my application from scratch. I'll show you how I did that and the different oscillators involved. Um, I can go into more Rust stuff and show you a bit of polymorphism because we use that as well. We're using concurrency and polymorphism, but they don't go together very well in Rust.
Okay.
We can take a look at the source code, parts of main to keep it simple, the oscillators, and we'll just leave it at that. And
Okay.
if I can, I'll try and pump the data into a spreadsheet, and you can see the application running where it's supposed to, and alongside the source code itself.
Good.
And
Yeah.
that should be it. So that'll be a little demonstration on what the program can do, and then any questions, fire away and let me know.
That sounds good. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the strategy that we're going to implement will use an exponential moving average. It'll use two exponential moving averages. The first exponential moving average, it will take a length of about 10, I believe.
Hmm.
And then we can mark that one as black. So we'll get a black line. We'll make that black line thick as we can so we can just see it on screen. And that's that's uh, that's the first part. The second part
Okay.
is we will make this orange and we'll make that thick and we'll put the input as 50. And so, because this is going to be on a 1 minute time frame, as the idea was to approach how scalping would be,
Can you just describe to me what scalping is, just
oh,
briefly?
yeah, scalping is like a very short-term small trade.
Okay. Yeah.
So you get in very, very quickly, and then you get out and you make like I don't know, a couple of dollars, $6, $10 or something.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So it's like micro trading almost.
yeah, basically that's it. So we can see here with the black line, what the bot will do is it'll track both of these lines via the trades, via the averages. And when the black line crosses over the orange line, we get into the trade. So I'll mark on my with my brush here where the price would be when it crosses over. So we take at this moment in time when it crosses, we would be buying in about here,
Yeah.
and then when it gets to the highest point it can, the moment it drops is when we want to sell. And the way we find that out is by using what's called an ATR, an average true range. And an
Okay.
average true range takes the velocity of the previous X amount of trades. So in this case, let's say it would be in the previous 5 trades or 10 trades. Okay. So it would say, okay, in the previous 10 trades, our average at the bottom there, if we can see this number, if you focus on this number,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you focus on the point where we would theoretically leave the trade, the ATR is at 27.8.
Yeah.
So using a calculation of the previous trades, if it goes below 27.8, we exit. So that means from this point here, it's always measuring from the top. 27.8 according to the ATR at that point in time would be about here. So we would then, in theory, exit the trade here. And this is all done automatically. So we would have bought in at this point at 65799, which is demonstrated over here on the right. So if you keep an eye on the right there, you can see it. We would buy in at this point here 65799. I'll mark that down with a horizontal line so we can see.
This charting software really good as well.
It is great, yeah, when you get into it. And then we would exit roughly around about here when the ATR marks.
Yeah.
So this would give us quite a fair amount of profit, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, it would give me about 40. No, it would give me quite a few points there. Was it 143? So if I had high leverage on this one moment of trade from here to here, that would give me a lot of money. That would give me probably like $50 or something. So if I remove all my drawings now, and we can take a look, that was only, how long did that actually take? Let's take a measurement tool again. From here to here, that would have taken me, let's hide this and see the time, 6:53 to 7:19. So that would have taken me about half an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine how many times that happens in the day.
Okay.
Yeah. But thing is, it's not always successful trades. And what I just chose there was an example, a random example throughout the entire day. But if I got my bot to do this, the idea is that over, let's say this is over the minute. What I need to do then is layer it and say, okay, over the hour, how are we looking on trading over the hour? Well, at the moment, the market is just crossed below the line, which means that we're actually in a downtrend on the hourly. Yeah. So we only want to focus on shorting the market. So we would only ever enter shorts, which means that we would enter the trade here and exit the trade somewhere down here according to the ATR.
Okay. And so with crypto trading, you can do shorting as well as going long as well.
That's correct. Okay. Yes. In BitMEX, you can short and long with 100 up to 100x leverage. So yeah, it's potentially they're quite lucrative, but you need to have a lot of things in place. And I attempted it, and you could see if I carried on with the project, I could probably get some cool things happening. But this is not. I got to a point where it was like I realized it's no longer a one-man project. This is something a team of people would needed to be doing, and I can't do that. But I gained a lot of skills from it. I gained a lot of knowledge from it, and we're going to take a look at the next step. So, so we understand the basic strategy. We'll take a look at the oscillators, and perhaps we could look at the formulas as well. But we have the use of two formulas here, two oscillators: the exponential moving average and the average true range. So if we flip over to the code now, I know this is probably a lot to take in, so we'll just look at the main to begin with, and I'll check my list so we stay on track here. Give it a demo on the Rust structs, polymorphism. We'll do that later. We've skipped a source code and the parts of main, so this is what we're going to do. We'll go here, and then we'll go here, and then we'll go up here in a bit. So anything in Rust you need to know in the moment, just let me know.
Yeah. Okay. I'll call it out when I don't understand, but yeah.
One thing I think I'll explain real quick is Rust is kind of tricky because if you remove the is it semicolon? If you remove the semicolon, that means it's actually the equivalent to typing in return in Java.
Okay.
So if you it's very tricky. You have to keep an eye out for that semicolon. If you don't see it, it means it's returning the value.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
Looks very C++ in terms of namespacing.
Sorry?
Looks very much like C++ in terms of namespacing.
It is actually, yeah. From what I understand, I don't know C++ myself, but I understand there's memory management involved.
Yeah.
And there are many similarities. And Rust has taken from C and C++, C#. I don't know the difference again, but I know that Rust has taken from those languages.
Yeah. Okay.
So aside from simple things like the minute clock and the ticker, which I will also have to mention, we can take a look at the oscillators straight away. So we'll go into that now. We'll take a look at the exponential moving average. There are other strategies I've been involved with or been experimenting with. We'll take away, let's just clean this up. We'll take away all those. We'll use the MA and we'll use the ATR. Now, you'll see something called Boo a lot. That's because I was using black over orange, if you remember.
Okay. Yes, you
BOO.
were. You were black
Yeah,
over orange, yeah.
yeah. So I call it Boo because I thought it was a cute name, so I just remembered it as Boo. But there's other colors I was using and other acronyms. So Boo is kind of like I think the third iteration of the strategy I was developing.
Okay.
So anything you call you see Boo oscillators. If you look into Boo oscillators is a collection of more oscillators that are tailored to the Boo setup. So you remember we were
Mhm.
using 10 and
Oh,
50 on black and
yeah,
orange.
yeah, yeah.
What we got here is the EMA builder. So I'm using a builder design pattern to create the oscillator with its custom intervals
Yeah.
and its own labels. And so finally now we can take a look at the oscillators. So if we go into the EMA builder, which should take me over here to EMA, we can see when we want to build it, we have our vec. A vector is like an array.
Okay.
Um, our interval is our input, and our label is our string input, and the vector is basically f64 is a value. It's like
Okay.
like
This is
an
a
integer.
13 point value. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's right.
long.
Yeah. So we've got
Well,
this. We got this in a builder design pattern.
okay.
Um, and what we need to do then is, let me just check this. So when we create our temporary value under the build,
Hmm.
we have our temporary value, which then it updates itself as part of the build process. So we have like a um, sort of a template setup. This is how it's done in Rust. We set up the template with our inputs.
Yeah.
You see these are like the default values,
Yeah.
but then we want to populate those values. So we go into update,
Okay.
and then it returns. So remember, there's no colon.
Yeah.
So we will return that then as part of the build. So
Okay.
when we use our builder, we get
Oh,
EMA,
black.
a black EMA, yeah. And then with
Yeah.
our black EMA, then we can do as we need to do with that, which would be probably get the last value, or there's functionality I've put in there, so we can get the last value. We get it into interval. Its results as of x64.
Yeah.
The closes, which is when the trades close, you can get the
Yeah.
opens, the highs and lows, and what have you, and the label. And
Okay.
there's more to it as well. Print a file, which we could use later on if we have time, which is what
Yeah.
we're using to cross-reference the results. So if we look at the actual EMA itself, EMA builder, build, there we go. So inside of update, we take our standard moving average. I think that's
Mhm.
standard moving average, SMA. Simple moving average, sorry, simple moving average. Simple moving average is what it sounds like. It's the
Mm.
averages of all the results. But the
Okay.
exponential moving average, the EMA, is weighted. The values are weighted to the most recent in the most recent trades, because the most recent
Yeah.
trades have the most significance.
Yeah.
Um, and what I did to get this correct, I went into Investopedia. So yeah, there we go, Investopedia EMA. There we go, and then it gives you the formula. So this is the formula, but that's full of adverts and quite complex. But the formula is kind of basic. I've got this. This is kind of like the hard Wikipedia page equivalent to the information. So it'll just
Yeah.
give you like the straight up stuff. But what I did is I made it easier on myself by doing more research and looking into you know spreadsheet equivalents of this.
Yeah.
So then I could go into like the spreadsheet and look at the sums and the averages and what have you and make it easier. And then I converted that then into what we see here in Rust. So we take the first 20 results um, and we create the simple moving average, and then we push it into an array. And then after 20, we've got our sort of baseline of data from
Yeah.
the simple moving averages. Then we switch over to exponential, and then we have the formula for exponential using a k-value, and this all ties into the Investopedia
Okay. Yeah, I get
equation
that.
here. Yeah. So that's
I'm
basically.
not a math genius, but I think I understand what's happening here.
Yep. Cool. Cool. All right. So we can print what I did to test this, because I'm working with live data. I didn't want to work with sort of like static test data. I wanted to have constant feeder data and test it
Yeah.
and know that I was getting the right results in real time rather than testing it and kind of like oh, I've got the right result, and then apply it to real live data and go, hold on,
Mm.
what's wrong here? And because I needed to get precise results, because there's no leeway for, there is a little bit of leeway, but there's no way I can have it a few points off,
Yeah.
because it will deviate and give me incorrect results, and then my bot will actually be carrying out trades where there aren't any trades. So
Okay.
to test this EMA, I would use print to file, and we could try that now and see if this works. So we'll go to EMA Builder, see what we can do with this. So perhaps we could go into uh, black dot print to file, and we'll call it black, or we can use the label which is given to it, but it's okay. And hopefully this will work, because I haven't tested this in about a month. So we'll see. So when we run
Yeah.
this now, it shouldn't carry out any trades unless I'm
Second
really...
one needs to be orange dot print file.
Oh, yeah, sorry, you're right. I'll just see if it runs first.
So Rust Rover, that's the new IDE from IntelliJ, isn't it? Or from JetBrains, I should say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's okay. It's just basically the same. It is basically the same, to be honest. It's a little bit slow compared to some others, but I'm so used to using IntelliJ that I can't give it up really. I got my shortcut keys in there as well.
Yeah.
So there we go. We got black and we got orange, and you'll see for the first 20 results I marked them as 0 because these are the simple moving averages.
Yeah.
And then after that we got our data coming through. And the way I would test this is manually, unfortunately, but I have to do it this way because it's a consistent stream of data coming in.
Yeah.
So, and the way I would do this is I would paste this into my spreadsheet like this, and then I would collect both columns and I would insert a chart, and then this is the end result. But because we got those 20 at the beginning there, we probably want to cut out the first 20 results. We'll keep it in there for now. And the other thing is we would have to log the scale. So if we take a look at this now, at the end here, we can see this would match up with the minute chart.
Yep. That
And
makes sense.
so if we go to 1 minute and we go to there, you can see it's a similar pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do is I would get my so if I could actually get, sorry, just a second. Should be able to.
You
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Mm.
Let's say we've got 1,000 results, and I want to get the first 50. Yeah, probably. Just type in 250. No. Okay. I would want to cut that out, but anyway, we'll just do it visually because it's going to take time. But we can see there's a sharp point here. It goes underneath, and then it crosses, and it goes above, and it kind of
Yeah.
hooks at the top.
And that's when you drew the trade, really.
Yeah,
You
sharp point goes underneath, hooks above, and at the top.
Yeah, that makes
Yep,
sense.
cool. So what I can do now is I can add much more complexity if I wanted to. So what I would originally plan to have was more than just black and orange. If I would to switch to my BitMEX account, you'd see that there was actually a long list of EMAs, and they would all be analyzing in the minute. And the benefit of using Rust is not only that the concurrency in Rust is pretty cool, but also it's very fast.
Mm.
And it's able to run up these calculations really quickly and not only kind of find me good scalping trades, but look at, say, for example, 1 minute calculation, 3 minute calculation, 5 minute calculation, an hour, and we can see that in the hourly, we're actually recovering, but we're still underneath an average. But maybe compared to like a 6 hour, we're actually doing great. We're actually on a boom.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends then the length of the trade and the strategy involved and the averages that you use. And you could be running not only one type of trade, but because of the way I've developed my application, it's like a Meccano set. You can put
Yeah.
together not only different intervals with different averages, but you can use different oscillators and in different ways. So my idea was to run instances using different oscillators across various different markets. So you wouldn't only be using this on Bitcoin, you could use this on a variety of things that are exclusive to the BitMEX platform, for example,
Yeah.
which are all these different markets you can see here.
Wow.
On top of that, run it on Forex. So I could be trading with the US dollar against the Swiss franc, or any other currency. So you could be looking for patterns in the markets
Okay.
on various different time frames in various different ways,
So
but not just. Hmm?
this is the kind of thing that like a quant in a trading house would be looking at. It would be
Yeah,
looking at different things like that.
yeah, yeah. So I get a lot of benefits from this project. This is why this project was very appealing to me, because I get to learn a lot about Rust. I get to work with concurrency, which I haven't touched on yet, but this does use concurrency. I get to I get to develop tools on an intimate level, so I know a lot about EMAs, ATRs,
Mm.
or all different oscillators, MACD and what have you, which I've been using for a long time, but not on a precise level that learning the formulas would give you. So on top of that, not only do I get to learn a lot of stuff, I develop a lot of skills. I could potentially start my own little business or my own company or trades just simply from having a BitMEX account and running a bot. I
Okay,
got
so
I got
then
ambitious with the idea,
a question for you then is why not do this full time? It sounds like that you have enough info that you could start building up a small amount of trades and then sort of roll with it.
I could, and I can see the potential there. I'm glad that but like I said, it got to a point where I realized I'm going to need a team. There's no way I can do this on my own. It's a lot of work, and the more you learn about it, it's like a fractal. You keep moving
Mm.
in and moving in and moving in and finding out more and more and more, and it comes to a point where I do need more help. I need probably specialists, probably someone with more, well, definitely someone with more experience in trading than I have,
Mm.
because I can't see further on down the line. Like if I were to develop this for months and then get into a state where I'm trading over a course of months, and I find out that there's something fundamentally wrong with the way I'm approaching it, and I'm not making money because it's not as simple as it seems, then
Yeah,
I would have wasted months because I wasn't informed,
and,
or
and
you know what I mean,
potentially
or I lack
lose money in the
experience.
process.
Hmm?
Yeah, and potentially lose money in the process.
Definitely, and I admit I have done because I wasn't using the test net. I was using live trades. So every time I run the bot, actually, it's a funny story here. I had a loop that was running, and it would check whether or not a trade was made, and it would be absolutely certain that it hadn't duplicated its trade, but it did because the thing that made it was making duplicates of the things
Oh
that were
no.
ensuring. Yeah, so it's like in a singleton design pattern, it ensures that there's only one there, but
Yeah.
because we're working with concurrency, it was absolutely certain there was only one, and there only was one, but it was making multiple versions of that thing that was only existing. You know what I'm saying? Of a
Yeah.
single thing. So I had
Well, okay.
those just
So
big blast of trades.
values
Like,
in, I'm
hmm?
hoping the values involved weren't massive.
No, no. I'm dealing with the smallest possible amounts.
Yeah.
So when I
Okay.
started this project, I thought, I'll go with the live trade account and I'll just do it on like pennies and what have you. But
Yeah.
those pennies add up. But
Yeah. Of course they
I
do.
yeah, I've lost a significant amount of money. But it was just
I guess you've learned a lot in that time though, as
yeah,
part of
that's
yeah.
true as well. So I was motivated by seeing it make money, which it did. But then when I lose money, it's a lesson learned. And then I
Yeah.
go in and I fix that issue with the singleton approach, and then I go, okay, I can see what I did wrong there. That was a bug, and it caused me to make multiple trades, but it's fine now. But you learn from it. It's
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
but I actually have stopped this project until I can move everything over onto the trading, the test platform for BitMEX,
Right.
because then I'm free to make as many mistakes as I like and experiment a lot more. But to do that, then I have to set up my API keys
Right.
and the way that the system trades. So you have different URLs, and I have to look into what that is, and I'm not too sure on what to do. I think you just put test in as a prefix, but I'm not sure
Hmm.
again. And I just basically have to do a lot of the work I've already done, and it's kind of not very motivating. I'm like, I've got what I want out of this. I could potentially go further, but I've realized again, it's not entirely for me. I like the idea of it, but yeah, I don't think the payoff is going to be worth it. The time investment required is not there, and I would rather have a team of people to help me and know that I'm making the right decisions and not wasting my time. And
Fair enough.
yeah,
Do you want to show me the concurrency? Because I think that was one of the goals that you wanted to
yeah,
talk
sure,
about.
sure, sure. So the concurrency is actually kind of simple. We're using something called Tokio, which is a runtime.
Okay.
As you can see there, runtime for writing reliable network applications without compromising speed.
Okay.
Um, it runs little green threads,
Okay.
and yeah,
Yeah.
so we're all good on our Tokio spawn, which we can take a look at here. Spawns an asynchronous task. You can sort of return the value in a join handle, but we're not doing that here.
It's just
And
one concurrent. Okay. How do
uh,
they interact with each other then? So I guess so the
good
platform we
question.
use is Vertex, and Vertex runs on top of Kotlin coroutines, but Vertex has its own, like, let's say, like green thread kind of situation.
Mm,
Um, but it generally runs in like a single threaded only mode. It only runs one operation at a time, so you
mm.
don't have to worry about like concurrent access to data and that kind of thing. Looks like in this case you're running three things potentially at the
Or
same time. Maybe they may interact, or four.
mhm.
Maybe they interact, maybe they don't. So how does the concurrency work in terms of data access?
Good
Do you have
question.
to?
Yeah, what I have here is a two-part answer. First, I'll say that when I'm using polymorphism in Rust, it doesn't really, for me, I'm having trouble with getting it to gel with polymorphism. So concurrency
Okay.
and polymorphism in Rust is I'm finding it tricky. I know it's not impossible, but it's to work around that issue. I've created, and for better actually, it's actually an improvement. Um, I've created two threads, one that uses Boo,
Hmm.
and the other that uses the API
Okay.
request, right? So with the polymorphism involving Boo, I've separated out and put the API controller into its own thread, and that way
Right.
then it works nicely. To fully answer your question, how does the information go from one to the other? We're using channels here.
Okay.
So a channel, it's an asynchronous
Um,
channel, sender receiver,
yeah.
and if you put too much information down one channel and the receiver isn't accepting it or using it, it breaks.
Okay, so it's like a Kotlin coroutine channel.
Mhm.
That kind of, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I got that. Yeah.
So we'll spawn our minute clock, which we'll take a look at in a sec. We have a sender here, so the minute clock is sending out signals every minute.
Okay.
And then the receiver goes to Boo, and Boo receives the data
Right.
every minute.
Okay. So it's like events. So the minute clock fires events every minute, and then the boom main receives those events and then acts on them and then fires events, and then okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
it's purely event. Is that
in,
basically it?
yeah, into the API controller, and the API controller carries out its orders, and the ticker uh,
Yep.
is very similar to the minute clock. The
Yep.
ticker is using a WebSocket to get on the second trades.
Yep.
The moment the trade happens,
Yep.
I get that information via the ticker, and that
Mhm.
again is sent into the channel here, which is received by the Boo.
Okay. Okay.
So take a quick look at the minute clock. A minute clock's very simple. It locks itself out from anything but it needs to do it a second before. It needs to unlock a second before because it's a bit fiddly. But we send the information every 16th second of the minute
Okay.
because the system that's sending out all the information takes 16 seconds. So it doesn't
Okay.
happen. It doesn't happen on the minute. It's either a time difference or it's a processing thing from the minute.
Okay.
But either way, I've calculated 16 seconds. So yep. If we go into the ticker's a little bit more complicated because we're using a WebSocket. But this is my WebSocket,
Yep.
um, and it sends it out twice because on the first send it opens the channel, and then the second send it receives the data,
Okay.
which is a bit tricky. I had to figure that out, but I could send anything in the first send. That just
Okay.
opens the door, and the second thing
Okay.
is the information it receives.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I had to count the requests, and there's other little debugging things involved there. But basically, it's basically copy paste from the internet from someone else's example. Then I kind of molded it into my own thing. It could be more streamlined, more efficient, but it works perfectly well, so I kept it the way it is.
Okay.
Um, so we go back into the API controller. The API controller isn't a really big thing. It's just a standard REST API controller. It uses get and delete and put and post. And
Yeah.
so I hope I don't. Oh, I hope I don't give away my API key. I don't. Yeah, there we go. Because then that's in my restricted folder. But you can see
Which
that.
you're not going to show me. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. The only nuance really with sending information to BitMEX is because it's a financially sort of involved platform. You need to have security.
Hmm.
So one of the trickiest things about sending information over is you need to encrypt the data with
Yep.
SHA-256, and you need to hexify the information, and you need to put it into a certain format,
Yep.
and that includes the URL, the information inside of it, and the post and get.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah,
We do that kind of thing for our own systems as well. We
cool.
um, yeah, hashed key and signature, the kind of thing is standard.
Yeah, no, it's good, but they don't give away too much information on whether you got it right or wrong. They always give you back the same answer, so you have to figure out.
Yeah.
You really have to figure out. And what I did wrong was I actually didn't have that there, and it took me a day to figure it out. I was like, "What is going on?" I really had to do like some Columbo work, and go, "Oh,
Brilliant.
that was painful." Let's go to main again. So basically, that's it. I mean, that's basically it. So if we look at the use of the EMA. Uh, if we just say, let's see, if the previous market is short and now the current market is long,
Mm.
it means that we're in a cross trade long or a long market. So all we're doing is using our oscillators. You can see here, get the market phase. We use the oscillator to decide, and we pump the information in from the WebSocket and from
Yeah.
the ticker at those intervals. And you can see whenever 69 is the number I use it as a code, but we get that on every 16 seconds. So that's the minute coming in. That's the ticker coming in. On our processor, we have our data set coming in via request from the ticker information. We have our ATR built with the interval of 15. We have our oscillators from the Boo builder.
Mhm.
That's all good. We have our current market position set because we now know, based on our oscillators, whether or not we're long or short. This is just a test. We don't have to have that in there. And this is when we send this thing over to the
Order
yeah
transmitter.
the order transmitter,
Trade.
the API controller.
Yeah, yeah, if I control
Yeah,
that.
so
Okay.
this is the TX order. So basically, we have everything we need. We have all components there. We can see how it works. We can tell if it was previously short and now it's long. It means that's the moment it's crossed over. That's when we enter the trade. We can short the market, we can long the market, and we have other building blocks too. So the Chan is not in use at the moment because that's not part of the strategy of Boo. But if I were to
Mhm.
use another strategy, I can use it's called Chandelier Exit, and it uses the various different things like its average true range. Yeah, it uses the average true range, and it tells you whether or not the market is overbought or oversold. We
Okay.
have a histogram, all the stuff again cross-referenced with the spreadsheet to find out whether or not it's correct and what exactly where the market is and what it's doing. And the histogram is like it's similar to the ATR again, but
Yeah.
we using I think it's EMA in this one. Not sure, but anyway,
Histogram is like a bit more data rich. Is that right? I think the histogram,
yeah,
like the way I see it from a graph perspective.
I'll show you the histogram here. You can see. So this is the MACD, and the histogram here is kind of similar, but it shows you the crossover in different ways. So if down here, if we see the market is crossed on the two lines, we'll see
Yeah.
that the momentum is actually changed. So
Yeah.
it's good to know that if we're in a market that's going down and we're below the line now on Boo, so Boo is like, okay, the market's going down, we should short at this point.
Yeah.
It's good to know that the market will be turning here and on here on the histogram. And this is where we could potentially sell knowing that the market is turning. So this is as far as we're going to go.
Yeah.
But with the ATR that I was using, we would have actually exited about here. So from 2,699 from this point here, and we would have made it out at a better point. But so 2,699, we would have actually exited about here. So you can use different strategies. It would be good to use the MACD histogram to exit the trade because you know for sure that the tide is turning, whereas the ATR is actually a lot more sort of jittery, flighty.
Yeah.
It would jump out the moment it sees the ATR as being broken. But what
Okay.
might actually happen is that it'll come down. It might actually break the ATR and then continue to go down further.
Mm.
So what I was going to do is I was going to have runners. So I have one strategy with one type of variables passed in. So I'd say,
Yeah.
okay, you're going to use the ATR for the exit, and you're going to use the MACD for the exit. And so that way, I got my bases covered for both trades.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I would end up exiting here or exiting down here if depending on which strategy I use.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So it sounds like you're really wrapped up into this whole trading thing. As an employee of a company,
Mm.
how would you balance your time between doing these personal projects and sort of working on the things that you're paid to do the work for?
Yeah, good question. It's a fair question. So I would go back to my GitHub here. So like I said, there's many answers to the question as to why I stopped working on this project, and why I wouldn't go further with it. I mean, I at the beginning I saw a lot of potential for it, and I was very curious, and like I said, a lot to learn. I feel like I've gained everything I can out of this project without stepping over into that territory of becoming what was it, a hedge fund or whatever,
Yeah.
and in reality, um, trading is a lot more brutal than what it seems. I mean,
Yeah.
those examples I've given you, they were enticing to me as well. Like to see this potential here and potential there, and this actually, and
Yeah.
then seeing the trades actually run and seeing them work. It's great, but it isn't always great. Sometimes you get this noise here, and that to me is costly, or it's more work because I can avoid these problems, but then I have to look into more algorithms and I have to do more work. And
Yeah.
so to extend upon answering what you asked earlier, why couldn't I go further with this? It's because yeah, I've learned as much as I need to learn, and I love the idea of having being able to build a company, and how cool would that be as a story, and how amazing would that be as a venture. But in reality, it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more
Yeah.
complicated than it seems. And even though a scalping strategy it seems simple and it's enticing, you can always take it further. And
Yeah.
it comes a point where you go, you know what? In reference to my GitHub here, you can see
Yeah.
this project. I started it before this moment here on the 27th. I was actually researching it for a good week or two. I started building my own oscillators, and I got
Mhm.
into it. I thought this is really cool. And then from there, I thought, well, where can I go from here? Then I started building a WebSocket. I started building the ticker. Then I started to inject things, and I started to come up with strategies, and I was doing more research, and I was building. And you can see it may only say one contribution, but it doesn't say like the amount of.
It's one massive contribution. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was doing this every single day for like 8 hours a day because I was so interested. It was so
Yeah.
cool. I was like, oh, this stuff is, and you can see that the work that comes out of it. But it came to a point where I realized I've invested a lot of time and a lot of effort and energy into this. It's been a marathon basically,
Mm.
and I've gained. I wouldn't. I've gained a lot from what I've done, but I'm happy with this, and
Yeah.
I've learned all I can and learned all I want to learn. I want to use this as a platform to get perhaps back into working
Yeah.
and using those skills rather than trying to start up my own hedge fund.
Yeah.
Because like I
Okay.
said, there's
That makes
two paths you could take, and the one I could probably I could probably light up this GitHub profile for a year and just have all green, and I don't know where I would be, but there is still a possibility I'd be working on issues
sense.
where it
Yeah.
could be enticing. It's like that little carrot that's on a stick that's attached to your head. It seems so close. You could almost
Yeah.
touch it. You could almost get that right trade. But then
Yeah.
comes something else in the market, or something else that's
Well,
going
and
to
then the
change.
market has a crash like it did like 12 months ago, where it was, and you just end up in a doldrum and you can't ever get out of that
Yeah,
pit.
you can end up in a capitulation phase. And don't get me wrong. What I can do is definitely create something that would pick out good trades for me and get me a couple of £100 or more once a couple of weeks when the market's in the right place, when my bot is trained to that condition.
Yeah.
And that's what stock traders do. So yeah, I've created a stock trading robot. It's fun, but it requires. I'm not even halfway there, and I realize that now.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah,
fair enough. That's
yeah.
fair enough.
As
Okay.
as for other projects that go on, normally what I do is I will work on IT projects because I want to learn something new or I'm
Yeah.
curious about it. And that's like the theme. Like I wanted to learn about microservices, so I built a microservice project.
Mm.
And I get into that and I learn as much as I can and I see the patterns, I see the things involved. And then I'm confident to get back into it later on if I
Yeah.
need to use it in my career.